kingdom of this world has become the kingdom of our Adonai and his Messiah, and he will rule forever and ever. Wonderful words out of the book of Revelation, chapter 11. Good news is we're one step closer. We're 1 week closer to that verse being a fulfillment, or let's say the manifestation of that verse upon this earth. For the one who declared the end out of the beginning. We look at the news, all the things that are going on around us. It's serious days that we live in. There's no doubt about that. But these are days for us to understand that, as the words of Yeshua in Matthew chapter 24, these things must happen. They must. That's the word there. I don't know what it, I didn't look at it in Hebrew from the Matthew translations of the translation of Matthew from Hebrew, but I did look at it in Greek one time, and it says must. So the things you see in front of us, I know that it is to watch the news, to see what is seeming chaos upon this earth, destruction, death. Yes, I'm with everyone else. Could there be a different way? Yeah, there could have been. There could have been a different way, but there isn't. There isn't. This is the manifestation of what sin is upon this earth, and what we're going through today is what must happen in order for everything to be restored to the way that it was. So as you're watching the news, as you're seeing the reports, and as I'm sitting here on a Tuesday morning, it's a couple days before this video will be released. I have no idea. It's kind of crazy. You have no idea what may be the next morning, and I'll get to that thought in just a few moments. But we have no idea how the world may change in one night, in 1 week. But the old adage, the statement that we know who's in control, that statement has been used throughout, through many years. But do we really understand what that statement means as we're watching the events of this world? Okay, with that, let's go into the book of Vayikra. First of all, I want to thank those that were over in Seneca, South Carolina this past weekend. Had an amazing time teaching on the tabernacle. We had a full house there. Just great time. Once again, in that teaching, the presence of the Almighty was felt in a very real manner. We do have, in the midst of that, we picked up a couple more people for the Israel tour, and I don't have a crystal ball. That's against the Torah. I don't know what's going to be happening in October, November of 2022, but we are planning toward that tour. So I think I'll get the report here in a couple days. I think that we're down to about 4 or 5 slots. So if you're interested in joining us in the Connect to Israel tour, this would be a good time to go ahead and get your place reserved. The book of Vayikra, Leviticus, it's one of those that I understand the concepts of Vayikra, but yet I don't. And Vayikra brings me to the place of considering that there's this idea that the Hebrews in the wilderness, those that were dealing with the sacrifices, with the death on a daily basis of these, what was reported as millions over the time of the tabernacle and the temple, millions of animals that were slaughtered. It has been kind of a thought in Christianity, as I was taught in Christianity, that these people in the wilderness, that they just didn't quite get it. There was some things about their life that, they didn't see things like we do today. And I would challenge that statement today. That there was things about their life that we don't understand. That yes, when all of these offerings are looking forward to the different aspects of the manifestation of Yeshua, of Messiah. And so there are things that, yes, today I think that maybe I understand a little bit more clearer than they did. But in reality, there's some things that they understood. They were going through the daily process of these offerings. For many, it probably was, as it is today, just a religious experience. They were bringing their offerings and pretty much just kind of dumping them off and saying, hey, you know, this is my duty to do this. I've shown up for service another Shabbat. I've shown up for another service on Sunday. I've checked the boxes. Okay, I've given this and I've done that and I haven't done this, and check. I'm okay for another day. I'm okay for another week. I'm okay for another time period. And it was no more than just a religious experience in that day, in our day. But then there were those who took these instructions seriously. They saw them as a part of a greater picture, that they were honored, that they were privileged to be a part of, and they put into the offerings everything that they were, which is, by the way, the message of the offering, that we are to put everything that we are into the offerings that we give unto him. So it begins with the Olah. And I know that, once again, Barry Phillips does a lot of teaching on the offerings. I have it's not the place that I've spent a lot of time. I just, I'll tell you that up front. I have not spent the time like I have on the tabernacle looking at the offerings. So maybe if you want a little bit more depth, you can go to Barry Phillips' 10-Minute Torah. And by the way, if you're in anywhere in the area of Columbia, South Carolina, you just missed him because he was there for Passover. As I'm saying that, I'm thinking I'm ahead of myself, and Barry's teaching, I think it's on not Passover, but Pesach. Not Pesach. Purim. It's one of those P words. I got it. Yeah, I'll get that one out. So his 10-minute Torah portions, he's going to go into a lot more regarding these offerings. But here's my take on this. The first one is the Olah offering. And the Olah means to ascend. It means to go up. And one of the definitions, one of the ways that this word is translated is the stairway offering. Now, that's kind of a fun one. We live in a house that has a basement and 2 stories. So we have 2 flights of stairs. We have 10-foot ceilings, which means there's 14 steps between each floor. And no matter what you need, it seems like it's on the other floor. So I go up and down these stairs all the time. And what do? Stairway is about ascending, but it's also about descending. It's about that which goes up. This is, the law of gravity. That which goes up is going to come down. Well, the offering, when we give of this offering, this ascending offering, it doesn't just go up and stay there. But there is something about that offering that comes down and becomes a part of us. So this offering is as much about a communication, a conduit between the heavens, the heavenly realm, and the earthly realm. We see that as Jacob was there on what I believe to be Mount Moriah, Beit El, the house of El, that he saw that stairway. And that stairway was about the angels doing what? Olah. They were ascending unto the heavens, but yet they were then receiving something from that heavenly realm and bringing it back down to this earthly realm. So let's kind of look at the first step of this, that everything that we send up is going to be coming back down. Is this part of the essence of the verse of our instruction of your kingdom come, your will be done on earth in this earthly realm as it is in the heavenly realm. So are those words that we are instructed by Yeshua to pray, are those words like an Olah offering that we're asking that the realm that we are living in and the realm that he is in would be connected as one? Okay, that seems to be a little bit of a theme in my life because I see it as a theme in the scripture, that it is about these realms coming together and the Olah offering. So the person that is giving this offering is in a way initiating it. Now, of course, the instruction is coming from Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh through Moshe and to the people. So who initiated? Well, the instruction for the initiation was given by Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh from the heavenly realm. But it's just an instruction, or it actually says it is an order. Well, how many people see orders but don't follow them? Just all you got to do is drive down the road and you see it says speed limit 45 and somebody passes you doing 180. That speed limit sign is not a suggestion. It's an order. But many people don't obey the order. They see as, well, that's just a suggested or kind of a hint of what I should do. And there is a line of thought that when the Almighty gives us an order, well, it's just kind of a suggestion. It's something that, if I get around to it, I should take care of this. So he gives this order, but an order we have because of our free will, because of the choice, the ability to choose that he has given to us. We have the ability to say yes or no to that order, and we can walk in the blessing of, or we can suffer the consequences of not. So he gives this order as an instruction, but then it is up to the person, up to the people to initiate. So this kind of brings up an interesting thought. Do we believe that what happens on this earth is initiated from the heavens, or is it initiated from the earth? Or is the answer yes to that, okay? I really feel like there's been there's been one of those lies, okay? This kind of, it's been propagated, maybe not by, not by somebody meaning to do this, but there's been this bit of a propagation within many of us grew up in more of a Christian style denominations, a thought pattern of Christianity, which pretty much said that, well, I need to pray, but, it's really kind of meaningless because he's going to do what he wants to do. And so my prayer is more of just kind of an activity to make me feel guilty for not doing it, right? Is the opposite of that more true, though, that our prayer is the initiation, is initiating his desires to come to do something in this earth. So that Olah offering, our submitting ourselves in prayer, speaking into that stairway, that those prayers ascend unto him, and then he reacts into those prayers. Is this possibly why we see more activity upon this earth through times of crisis? I can go back in just my brief lifetime, and I can go back to places that I know of in history that are, it seems like there's more activity. There's more spiritual realm activity that is happening upon this earth than at other times. Is that just random, or is it caused by an increase of prayer upon this earth? Let's go back to the days that I'm familiar with of Jimmy Carter. Okay, it appears that we have history repeating itself today. You know, it's the price of gas has gone up. The only thing we don't have is the gas lines. Well, wait, the day is still young, right? So I remember the gas lines, the inflation. I remember the rising interest rates, all of those things. What did it cause? What did it cause? It caused people to pray. What did we see after that? And this is not to say that I'm not saying that one president is more righteous or whatever, but there are different ideologies that bring forth different things. So what do we have? We had we ended up with Reagan right after that. It seemed that Reagan kind of pulled these things into within control. Fast forward from there, what do we have? Clinton, followed by Bush. Well, there was some differences, and I'm not saying that one party. I'm not going there. It's just that look what was happening. Look what was happening. And then so things got worse, and then people began to pray. With the two administrations ago, with Obama, look what was happening. What happened in the midst of that? Bush. Now we have Biden, and we have a lot of chaos right now. Is it because during the time of Trump, and once again, I'm not. This is not political. Okay, this is just looking at the what's happening around us. Is it possible that people started to they kind of quit praying after that time, or during the time of the Trump years, and then things change? People start to pray again. What happens? It appears that we've entered into a new spiritual realm right now. So is this idea of the Olah offering, that if there's nothing going up, that there's very little coming down? So my point is this: maybe the more that we send up, the more that's coming down. It's like a grain, I've had people that had hay in a barn. It's hard to get hay out of the barn if you haven't put anything in. You got the second floor there, and if you don't keep putting hay up there, you don't have anything to come back down. Does that happen upon this earth? Is this the essence of that Olah offering, that what goes up is going to come down, and if nothing goes up, nothing's going to come down? It's not that he doesn't have it, but it's our prayers that initiate. It initiates us. Now, this offering is to, I hope that made some kind of sense, and I'm not sure if it did or not. This offering, it says, this is the law for the burnt offering. It is what goes up on its firewood upon the altar all night long until morning. In this way, the fire of the altar is to be kept burning. So what we send forth during our waking hours comes back down to us in our sleeping hours. If we go over to Psalm 121, a verse that should be one that we should take great heart in today. He who keeps Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. If you're laying awake all night and you're worrying about the world situation, understand this: he doesn't need sleep. Okay? He doesn't need sleep. He doesn't need rest. He doesn't, he's not sitting up in the heavenly realm wringing his hands over what some leader, some kook, some maniac in the world is doing. And believe me, when I say this, that when I say some maniac, some kook, I'm not just talking about Putin. There's things going on around us in Saudi Arabia, in China. There's things going around us all over the world. Venezuela. I mean, you could go on and list the different countries that are having, the people are being slaughtered, the people are being held in slavery. It is not just happening in one place in the world, but the powers that be that control what you and I see over that little screen have us, focus over here, because if we could, I've taught this how many times, if I can get you to focus over here, you don't, it's like this screen that you're watching right now. I have a monitor in front of me. You're just seeing what is here. You have no idea what is there. You have no idea what is over there, because I've got you directed into what I want you directed to. There's so much that's happening around us. He is not nervous about this. It says, he who keeps Israel, his focus today, as has been since the beginning, is upon his people. Remember this as you're watching the news. The focus of the Almighty is, well, I guess I better say this a little different. His peripheral vision is Ukraine. His peripheral vision is Russia. It is China. It is what's happening in this country, that country, and the United States. That's his provision. That's his peripheral vision. His focus, and that which he is bringing forth from all of his peripheral vision, is Israel. Israel, a people. Israel, a land. Make sure that you understand, whenever you're watching anything, in the back of your mind, you should be thinking Israel. Israel, Israel, Israel. How is this bringing forth the land and the people of Israel? Interesting enough, Psalm 121, which is one of the Psalms of Ascent, is followed by Psalm 122, yeah, I got that one. Psalm 122, verse 6, pray for the shalom of Yerushalayim, of Jerusalem. May those who prosper, or may those who love you prosper. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. He who keeps Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. This is those two psalms connected together is part of this Olah. It's part of this ascent and descent. It's part of this connection between the two realms. Now it goes on in verse, and I know depending on your translation, the verses are different right here, but it talks about the ashes. And this is one of my favorite teachings that I do from the tabernacle, is that the ashes had to be cleaned out. So every morning, the priest has to come and he has to clean out the ashes that are there upon the altar. Why? To make room for the fuel that will be for the altar that day. If he does not clean out the ashes of yesterday, there's no room for the fuel, and the fire will eventually go out. So the message to me is very clear that we cannot live in what happened yesterday. We cannot live in our past. Well, you can, but if you live in your past, whether that past is good or bad, whatever has happened in our past, if you try to live there, you're going to eventually smother out the fire of today. Word of wisdom to everyone. You can only live in today. Yeshua said, we're not guaranteed of tomorrow. He talked about that quite often. Do not fear what is happening, what is going to happen tomorrow. Do not live. The enemy, Hasatan, would like us to live in a place different than the Almighty wants us to live in. We have an ability to live in one of three places: the past, the present, and the future. The enemy would want us to live in the failures of our past. He would want us to live in the fear of our future. If he can get us to live in either one of those, he takes life out of our present. See, you and I are going to live in the present, but the enemy can take life out of our present by making us live in a different place. I was raised by those who came through the Depression. In a way, they never actually came through it. I had numerous relatives that never actually came through the Depression, but continued to live in the Depression. This was evident through the things that they experienced. And I'm not saying that those experiences were not real, but when the reality of that day changed into a different reality, some people kept living in what was. And their lifestyle, the decisions they made, were based upon the experiences of their past, which robbed them of their present. So let's make sure that we're living in the day. This does not mean that our past does not affect us. No. It does not mean that we should not plan at all for the future. No. But when I taught preparedness, I taught this. In storing food for the future, don't forget to cook breakfast today. All right? Make sure that you prepare for what is happening, for what is today. And if we continue to do that, I believe that the tomorrows will take care of themselves. The ashes. If we don't clear out the ashes of the past, making room for the fuel of our present, allowing the fire that he has given to us, we end up being as Ephesus. Go to Revelation chapter 2. The first 7 verses speak of this congregation, the Kahal at Ephesus, and it says, you've lost your first love. What were they doing? I mean, they had a lot of good things. There are a lot of things that they were commended for, but there was some things that they were not commended for. Why? Because they failed to clean out the things of the past. And now notice that the ashes that were on the altar represented the Olah offering. It represented the gift offering, the sin offering, the shalom offering. It represented all of those things. Represented everything. It represented the good, the bad, the ugly. All right, the Olah offering was of good. The Thanksgiving offering was of good. The sin offering was bad. The guilt offering was ugly. Okay, but all of those things, all of the blood, all of the grease of the fat had dripped down and was now a part of those ashes. So it was about taking all of it out and making room. So Ephesus, you can let me say it like this. You can hold on to the good of the past, not just the bad, but you can hold on to the good of the past and still lose the fire. It is not just about holding on to the bad, the negative things that have happened to us in our past, but you can hold on and live in the, I believe it's in Ecclesiastes, it talks about, do not talk about the good old days. The good old days had some problems, all right? They just did. But our minds tend to want to kind of think about, well, gas was 50 cents a gallon, but somebody failed to remember that you were making $2.50 an hour, okay? Things become relative when you stop and really think about it. So it says clean out all the ashes, everything of the past, in order to make room for the present. Moving on, that in verse 7, we are to present a gift offering. The grain offering is in, I think the King James translates it the meat offering. It has various, it has various translations here, but I translate it more like this. It's a gift offer. It's something that you're just kind of, I want to give something. And this actually, this word for gift goes to Genesis chapter 4, verses 3 and 4. And both the offerings that Cain and Abel brought were the gift offering. The word was the same. It was not the offering that was the problem. It was the person that was the problem. See, when we bring our offering, we need to be considering our intent at bringing it. We need to be considering the motivation that is causing us to bring it. So with Cain and Abel, one brought an offering that was acceptable. The other one Cain brought an offering that was not acceptable. Why? We went back and actually looked at all of it, that Cain was bringing an offering of more of the fruit of his own hands. He was bringing, let's put it like this, he was bringing a show-off offering. He was bringing an offering that was basically standing before the Almighty and say, look at what I've done. Here, I want to offer you something, but it's not about my motivation is not about you. My motivation is about showing you what I can do. This offering that we give, whatever we give unto Him, before we give it unto Him, we should stop and ask ourselves, what is the motivation? Okay, if let's say that you have an offering box at your congregation. Do you look for, the offering, you can have an offering, another person can have an offering, maybe your income's the same and your offering's exactly the same. Okay, you make the same amount of money on a monthly basis and you give the same amount on a monthly basis. But one offering can be accepted and the other one can be rejected. Why? Because the motivation of the person. Let me say it like this. I've seen people that will make sure that they put the offering in the plate, in the box, at a time in which people can see them. You think I'm not telling the truth? Yes, I am. I've literally seen people that have given an offering in such a way, kind of the Ananias and Sapphira thing, but not the lying about it, but it's like it's for a show. That I want to make sure that I put my offering in such a way that people see what I'm doing. On the other hand, there's people who just walk up and kind of slip it in. Which one is acceptable? Both are used, yes, but which one is credited to their account? I believe it's the one for the person that had the correct motivation, that they were giving because it was the right thing to do, not for a show-off offering. Verse 18 talks about the sin offering. This is the law of the sin offering. And that which touched the flesh of the sin offering was made holy. See, each one of these offerings has a picture of our life in Messiah. Whether it be each one. I mean, we can go back. I don't have time to go into each one, but the sin offering, that which was offered, if you touched, if you became a part of that offering, then you became holy because you came in contact with. I mean, is there a picture of Messiah there? I see it. That when this is, Yeshua said, unless you eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, you have no part in me. This does not mean, Catholic Church, that little wafer becomes the flesh of Messiah. That is absolutely from a pagan origin and is totally, completely, 100% in error, in my humble opinion. But with that being said, we are to partake of him. What these verses are saying is that his life, when we present our life of sin unto him, and we come in contact with his life of sinlessness, and this is you stop and think about this statement. That when we take our sin and it comes in contact with his sinlessness, that we become as if we had no sin. This would kind of be like, you're walking around outside and your shoes get muddy. I was out tilling our garden yesterday, and my shoes were just packed with mud because it was a little bit wet, a little damp out there. And so this would be like me taking coming inside with my muddy shoes and stepping on a white carpet and my shoes becoming clean. That doesn't happen, does it? Okay, you take your muddy shoes, you walk into a house, and you step on a white carpet. What happens? The white carpet gets muddy. That's in the natural realm. But in his realm, when we bring our mud and it comes in contact with him, our shoes become clean. Yeah, I know. It just doesn't quite add up in the end, which is kind of like what his redemptive work is in our lives, is when we think about it in our natural thinking, it does not add up. That's called faith and walking in faith. The last offering here is the shalem, or the shalom offering, the offering of peace. That we bring this offering, and this is the word that we get, the shalom. Okay, that word, this word here is a sheen, a lamed, and a final mem, which going into Paleo Hebrew, the sheen, of course I've taught on this a lot in Israel. The sheen is that which consumes. It looks like the teeth. It's also the letter of El Shaddai. So this is about the consuming of something. The lamed is about the king, and the final mem is about the waters, or chaos comes forth from waters. If you here in North Carolina, we've got these mountain streams, and it's chaotic. In Florida, it's just like this nice smooth thing, but here we have the rapids and the white water and all of that, and it looks very chaotic. So the message of shalom is that when we give him our chaos, that he consumes that chaos, brings it into the authority of the realm of the king, which produces order or peace, shalom in our lives. So if we have anything today that is chaotic in our own lives, and these are days that is easy to be consumed by the chaos, is it not? If you take that lamed out of the center of this word, I'm not sure that it actually is a Hebrew word there, but what do we have? Consumed by chaos. Consumed by the waters of chaos. But when we place the king, the lamed, in the center of that which is consuming us, then it is submitted unto him. Here's back to the Olah offering, right? When we take the chaos of this world, that which appears to be consuming, and we send it up the stairway and submit it to the king, what happens? It comes back down the stairway and becomes shalom. This is why I can watch that which is happening around us. Am I affected by what I see? Yeah, I don't show it. I don't show emotion as much as some do. But it affects me. Yes, it affects me in a different manner than others. I get. My tendency is to watch what's happening, and kind of there's an anger of the world system and what's going on, and how it is needless, how people fighting against people is, and the destruction that comes from that is so needless. I look at buildings exploding and think, this is somebody's life. Somebody put their life into this, and now it's going to have to be rebuilt. What uselessness is that? But in the end, I can take the things that are happening around me. I can send it up the ladder. I can take the chaos. I can send it up the stairway. Submit it to the king. And it comes back down to me as peace. That's why I can look at the words of Matthew chapter 24, which say these things must happen, and understand, and I can receive peace even in the midst of destruction and chaos. The priest Aaron was to adorn himself with these garments. And on these garments was the Urim and the Thummim. Quickly, I'm going to give a little bit of what this is from a friend of mine, Yudi Merotz in Israel, the Blue and White Store. He's an artist. Some of you know of Yudi. I was talking with Yudi one day. We were talking about the Urim and the Thummim. And from the literature of in Judaism, these the different commentaries, it talks about the Urim and the Thummim, and it states that these two stones were like, when I was growing up, a kaleidoscope. Now, I know that now there's an app for that, which is really stupid. It just takes I posted today on Facebook, don't allow your virtual to become your reality. Okay, I don't have, nor am I going to get a kaleidoscope app on my phone. I'd like, it can be kind of nice to have one. I might buy one for the grandkids if I find one, because that's the reality, okay? So these stones were like a kaleidoscope. And if you and I were to look at them, we would see these different colors and formations that were happening there. But the teaching is that if the high priest were to look at them, that he would see letters. He would see Hebrew letters in these stones, but they would be in a random order. And it was the job of the priest to discern the order that the letters were to be placed in. Fast forward to Eli, the high priest. We see Hannah come to pray. Eli sees her, and what does he do? The scripture records, he says, she's drunk. Now, where did he come up with that? Okay, I mean, she's there, she's mouthing this prayer, and he declares that she's drunk. Well, interesting enough, and I don't have the Hebrew letters here of the words, but I've run this through numerous people in Israel that have been, second, third witness, that the letters that would form the word drunk, if you rearrange them, it is the word beseda, which is it's okay. Someone says, "How are you doing?" Beseda. I'm okay. I'm fine. Everything's good. And so it appears that when Eli looked at the Urim and the Thummim, looking at Hannah, looking at the Urim and the Thummim, he saw the letters which would say beseda. It's okay. It's okay. Just leave her alone. What she's doing is kosher. All right? Which is a form there of that. But instead, he says she's drunk. What did he do? He looked at what was happening in front of him, and he discerned wrong. The message is very clear to me that when we look at what is happening around us, we must learn to discern properly. It's very easy for us to be manipulated in our day into looking at something and seeing the wrong thing. Is this? It is because his eyes were dim. That's what the scripture says. His eyes, his prophetic vision. He was looking at the events in front of him more through a natural realm. That's what the word there means, is that he had lost his perception of the earthly realm because his vision of the spiritual realm had become dim. A vision of, a perception of the spiritual realm will give us clarity and discernment into the natural realm. But when our eyes, this is going back to Psalm 121, it talks about, looking up, nasa. So many verses, look up, look up. Yeshua said, when you see these things happen, look up, look up, look up, look up. This is not just look up for his return, but look up to that realm, look up to the spiritual realm in order to understand the natural realm, not the other way around. Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov. Pray you have a blessed, prosperous week. Look unto his realm. Everything should be focused from that end of the stairway, not from our end of the stairway. But make sure that you're sending some things up that stairway. It may be the conduit of things coming back down unto you. Bezrat Hashem, God willing, see you again next week. And until then, be strong.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.